kind of inspected it, make sure that there's no cuts, nothing damage, no damage to the wheel or anything like that. What I like to do is I start opposite of the valve. I'll use my tire lever with the scoop section here. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna get one side of the tire out first, like so. If it's a little tight, most levers will have a little hook on here, and you can hook it onto the spoke. That's gonna give you a little entry point and make it that much easier for you to insert the next tire. I'm gonna use that in the form of this orange one here. So you're gonna come in, you may need to just wiggle it over just a touch. Come in like so. Once you have the lever inside, sometimes you want to pull towards you, you want to pull up. If you're kind of on the ground, you might want to pull up. Leverage is going to be your best friend at this point. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to push down. Just go all the way down. That's okay. Going all the way down and around. Now we've gotten one side of the tire out. Now we're going to be able to get that old tube that's worn, that's popped, pull that out, leave it somewhere safe. If you don't have a stand, maybe on the bench or something. And before you go and remove the other side of the tire off and taking it completely off your rim, save yourself a little bit of time and one less headache for later. Just leave it on there. What you can do is you can move it towards the center of the bead here and just inspect that center channel. Just inspect it. If you see, this is tape, but there are rim strips that are nylon, that are rubber. If that has worn through and there's a hole in there at the spoke hole, you're gonna want to replace that immediately. If you're out on a long ride and you just need to get back, put a small amount of air in there, enough for you to ride safely, and get yourself out of Dodge. If you're home and you're inspecting this and you find that your rim strip is worn, replace it before your next ride. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our tools and we're gonna get ready to install a new tube. But before we do that, because we got a flat on the road, who knows, maybe there might be a sharp object in there, something that got caught, glass or a metal shard, and we're gonna wanna inspect the tire. So just go slowly, start at the valve. Notice the labels here at the valve area. That's just kind of like a quick reminder just to always have a starting and end point. And just go slowly. Slowly check the tire. You wanna check the sides, check the center, and check the other side. The reason you wanna go slow is if there is something in there, our fingertips are sensitive enough that we'll be able to catch it. And two, you don't want to go super fast because then you'll just cut yourself. Just go all the way through. All right. So far, so good. Didn't see anything. Maybe what happened was that I was running too low for tire pressure, and I ran over a pothole or something, and then I pinched the tube in between that hard surface and the rim. So when you take a look at your tube, if you see two kind of like snake bites on there, odds are you were running too low over tire pressure.
I've heard that that's like 95% of flats. It's just not enough air.
Low tire pressure. Yeah. So all of your tires will have a designated PSI rating stamped on it. For example, this one has a max PSI of 85. Give yourself about 10 or 15 PSI to play with. So if you want something a little bit more comfortable, I would probably go about 70 PSI would be the lowest I would go on this tire. 85 would be the absolute max.
Yeah, the best thing you can do for a bike is pump the tires.
Yeah, every time before you head out for a ride.
It's like gas in a car.
Just check your gas, check your... Yeah.
And is it more, would it be less comfortable if you were up at 85?
It's going to be a harsher ride.
Like a bumpier
ride. You'll just feel every little bump. Yep.
I always fill mine up all the way.
Me too.
Yeah. I feel like it's faster though, like on a road bike tire, right? Like
absolutely.
It used to be all the
It's
way.
more efficient, right?
Yeah.
So there
Less
is
of the
some
tires,
truth to
that's
that.
what's
We'll go over that in just a second. There's a little bit more to the tire pressure and efficiency side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our tube. This, for the sake of today, this is our new tube. We've put a tiny bit of air, just enough to give it shape, not enough to make the entire tube round. We're going to grab the valve like so in between our hand. We're going to open up the tire, exposing the inside portion of the rim. We're going to insert our valve first, and then we're going to pull the tire up and over, and then start tucking the tube into the tire.
So you want to go the opposite direction? See, the tire was on this side, but you don't go from put the tube on the opposite side?
No.
Okay.
So,
Put it where you can put it underneath.
yeah, so you've only taken one side of the tire off, and you're going to pull the tire, exposing the inside portion of the rim. Valve in first, let the tire hang out, and then you're just going to tuck the tube into the open cavity here, the tire. Sometimes it can be a little easy like this, where it can get, you can make that step a little easier for yourself. Sometimes you're actually going to have to go around and just tucking that tube all the way in and all the way around. Once you've done that, what you're going to want to do is you're going to, for the purpose of today, I'm going to do this kind of the opposite way. You're going to start at the valve and just kind of push that tire up and over on the rim. Notice how I'm getting caught here at this section with the tube. Pause, tuck that in a little bit more, and then continue to push that tire over the rim. Sometimes what's going to happen is this. It's going to get really tough. This is where your tire lever comes back into play. When we remove the tire, we use the kind of like the scoop section here. When we're installing the tire, we're going to flip it, and we're going to use that to our advantage to kind of bring it in through the center. Notice how it's reversed to the edge, and then back in. The edge and in.
Careful not to pinch the tube.
Exactly.
That's what always get me at this part. Is that
So you'll have to be very careful. Sometimes you will pinch it if you use the tool. You'll know immediately. Air will be rushing out. It does happen. The best way to ensure that you don't pinch it is to not use the tool. In which case you'll have to use your palms and push up and over.
It takes real strength.
right.
It takes a good amount of strength to do it. It takes a lot of strength to do that, but yeah,
Small wheel.
you'll have to
when
push
it's
up
tight.
and over to get it on there.
Once you've gotten this far, is there, for especially a beginner, a chance where you aren't in the clear and it's like tucked somewhere or it's folded? And how will you know?
So you won't know. There isn't really a way to see it. However, you will know if the tube is underneath the tire, and that is something that you can check. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to pull the tire to the side
Make sure
all the way through. Make sure that you don't see the tube underneath. If you do,
Check.
just kind of wiggle it back and forth, and that will position the tube back into the tire. Just do that once all the way around. That's just a quick check. Because the bead has been popped on both sides, you can just check both sides of it. If the bead is still on the rim on one side, then you don't have to worry about that side. But if you do see the tire underneath the tube underneath the tire at some point, just kind of wiggle it back and forth, and that'll ensure that the tube is inside of the tire. The last thing you want to do is make sure that you grab your valve and you push it into the tire. The reason for that is that there's more material at the valve, and it wants to sit underneath the tire. So by pushing it up and down, that clears that material into the actual tire itself, into the cavity of the tire, so that when you air it up, it's not going to blow out here at the valve.
There is a special tool that's hard to find that will lever the the tire rim onto the rim, the tire onto the rim.
Yeah, there's different like third hands or what have you that are
V-Locks
out
it's
there.
called. It's hard to find. Maybe France.
Then you air it up to your desired pressure. Floor pumps are going to be your friend. They're the most efficient.
Oh my God, yes.
Or if you have the space for it, you can also get a compressor. But with compressors, you may need to have specific adapters for bicycle wheels and or other sporting
And
equipment.
cartridges.